Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Friends, this is your host Farooq Mirza from USA. Fourth Pillar TV USA's program Washington Global Forum is specially designed for Pakistani American overseas diaspora. And we talk about different uh, aspects, changing political scenario, especially the issues related to Pakistan US relationship. Today, we will talk on very important subject. In Pakistan, Imran Khan, he said something. In fact, he threatened one of the session judge on public. Then he repeatedly uh, said the same thing. So the on one thing we observed, justice system responded quickly, and the High Court he took action and sent an issue, sent a notice to him to appear personally, and he did. He will come back to court. So the minute this thing happened, uh, the government of Pakistan, the existing ruling party, they also launched an FIR against him on terrorism charges. So the first time international media responded, and we also saw in United Nations look like a sponsored or already staged. One of the question was asked during a press briefing. So we will talk on this, the response of the international media, and we will also talk about the UN response. So it is very strange to us. So I will welcome Professor Dr. Ghulam Mujtaba Saab. He is a opinion maker, a philosopher, thinker, writer, and he is a foreign policy expert, and he did a lot of work on Pakistan America relationship. So, Dr. Saab, I will come to the point. You said, has United Nations anything to do with Pakistan's domestic policies? And what was the motive behind asking question on Imran Khan at UN weekly briefing? Who sponsored the question? So I will let you respond on these questions, or you phrase these questions.
Thank you very much, Mirza Saab. It's been a pleasure to come to your program. And the topics that you have been selecting for long concerns Pakistanis and Pakistan very much, and particularly at a pivotal time when the US and Pakistan relationship looked like at the brink of a collapse after the departure of US troops from Afghanistan. And we understand this relationship is not something new. We do understand that this relationship is there for the last many decades since the inception of Pakistan. And what is very important here is that when we look to the press disinformation in Pakistan, I have seen one of the journalists writing in one of the major newspapers in Pakistan about this incident that happened in the United Nations. And that was a question targeted on the fate of Imran Khan in Pakistan. And that was asked at the United Nations under the aegis of the United Nations. And let me come to this very point. United Nations is a body, world body, composed of Committee of Nations. United Nations has no role to intervene or intrude into the domestic affairs of Pakistan. Whatever is going on in Pakistan, Imran Khan was ousted through a vote of no confidence in the parliament, which is a democratic process. And had that democratic process been tainted, Imran Khan would have brought a case before the judiciary. There was no such case as the process was tainted. Now, the question is, this is a normal routine in the UK Parliament. When the sitting Prime Minister or the incumbent loses majority in the House, the Prime Minister is changed. He lost majority. He was not supported by those allied groups or parties, political parties that was aligned to him in the formation of the government, like MQM and like BAP, Balochistan Awami Party. So this was very much legal in consonance to the democratic means, and United Nations has nothing to plead or has nothing to tell Pakistani government as to what are the modus operandi of operating the laws and constitution in Pakistan. That's one thing. Second thing is the question, the very question that was asked in the United Nations. In the Pakistani press and media, it was displayed, it was portrayed in a way that United Nations showed some concern on Pakistan's domestic conflicts between the opposition and the government ruling party. This is absolutely not right. United Nations has no concern on the domestic issues of Pakistan. Yes, if the democratic process is curtailed, if there is a dent to the human rights violations, if there is a dent in law, certainly United Nations or the Committee of Nations could raise voice. These people who do the press briefings, show the attitude of the member states before the press. He was asked a question that was not part of the briefing details which he had it. If you go to the United Nations website, it will tell you what were the points to be discussed before the press in the weekly briefing that did not contain anything about Pakistan. Now the
Dr.
question,
Saab, uh, is it appropriate for the United Nations official or Secretary General to respond so quickly for an individual who was the ex Prime Minister of Pakistan, and he has no official position in Pakistan? He is the head of one of the political party, and he acts like America's son-in-law, and he is very arrogant, and he on public level he is threatening judiciary and the entire judicial system, and the court responded, and there is no violation observed so far. The matter is in the court, so nothing happened bad. And why United Nations gets so like their response was so speedy? What is going on behind the scene?
first thing, Mirza Saab, let us make clear to our audience that this was not the response of the United Nations. There is no resolution, there is no meeting of the United Nations member states on the subject. This was a response by a press person who was briefing, giving a weekly briefing, and the item did not contain in the list of those briefings. The question was asked by one of the young ladies, look like from Al Jazeera, and maybe nationality Pakistani American because her accent, the T accent, was not Arabic. So the accent was from Indian subcontinent. Yeah, it looked like the question was planted. The question was planted to get an answer, and the answer that the spokesperson gave was a textbook answer. United Nations website says that yes, United Nations will like to promote democracy, would like to promote human rights, would like to promote those values and virtues in member states. That is a promotion. That has got nothing to do with the member states or any complaint that he can deal with on the member states. If the question was asked on Ghana, the same question on Ghana, the response will be the same. If the question was asked on Rwanda, the answer of the United Nations would be the same. So the question is not what is not important here. The thing is the response was given so fast and quick as it was a written response, looked like either the question was briefed before the press conference that this will be the question that will be asked and this is the answer. He read the answer. That is not something very logical here. He should answer spontaneously. The question was asked and the response should have been spontaneous, not a written answer. So there is something fishy here. The question was planted, the answer was prepared. Those things are fishy. In any case, whatever the story is, I think Imran Khan has hired some sort of publicity support group and agency in the United States. He's paying something like $25,000 a month to promote his objectives. let me make one thing and before your audience clear, that what are the objectives of Imran Khan in going to the press, in raising those questions at international forums, in bringing this to limelight. What is his objective? That is the basic and fundamental question before us in terms of Pakistan's national security. And we are concerned if Pakistan's national security is compromised by asking those questions and planting those questions at national international forums to defame Pakistan and Pakistan's establishment or Pakistan's oligarchy. Now, coming to that point, is facing a lot of economic crisis, a lot of foreign policy crisis. What we see here, the Pakistan's foreign ministry is run by three leaders. Pakistan has a full-time foreign minister, Pakistan has a full-time minister of state on foreign affairs, and Pakistan has a full-time advisor on foreign affairs. These are the three cabinet positions in foreign affairs. In addition to that, Pakistan's ambassador in the United Nations is there. Pakistan's press attaché in the United Nations exists. And then, in addition to that, Pakistan's consul general is in New York. Pakistan's consul general has a press attaché in New York. No one responded when such a thing
As a
happened
matter of
here.
fact, sir, Dr. Saab, I spoke to Embassy of Pakistan, the press counselor, and I sent them a written note that what justification do they have not to respond or design any counter strategy on this sudden attack on Pakistan? And they did not respond to me properly. Same thing, I spoke to UN permanent mission, their press minister, and she said she will spoke to the ambassador tomorrow and she will update me about that. The matter is that the entire foreign office. Now let's come back to the foreign media. No doubt, Dr. Saab, Imran Khan is a very popular leader in the Pakistan, but around the world. He was a player. Uh, he gave Pakistan a World Cup, and he earned a lot of respect. Secondly, in the United Nations, his speech previously when he came to speak to UN on Islamophobia and Kashmir issue, he made a lot of friends and he impressed world leader as well. Of course, he is a very important person in Pakistan. But recently, uh, you saw him a very angry man, and he is talking very tough against Pakistan army, Pakistan departments, and he is threatening the entire justice system. And the world is also listening. Even he don't believe on our court system. And now you saw today when he appeared in the court, and he before he appeared, he invited thousands of men and women uh, to give him a support, and it was very difficult for him even to walk through these security gates. So I'm coming to the American media response. American media was very quiet when he was marketing and propagating anti-American regime change theory. All of a sudden, on one point, the American media just starts shouting. And what is this going on? This is not only a PR or publicity group or one PR Fenton or Loop can do that. I think there is something else is cooking. What do you think, Dr. Saab?
First of all, let me start from the first point that you raised, that Imran is a very popular leader and Imran is widely respected by the leaders across the globe. The answer, on my opinion, is no. I had a long discussion with someone who heads the Foreign Relations Committee in the United States in the Congress. And while I was getting into the car, seeing him off, he said, "What do you think, Dr. Mushtaba, about Khan?" I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "He looks like a Bollywood actor." That was a comment of the second top man of the United States. This was a personal thing, and I'm not naming the person. This was a personal opinion. So these are the opinions that exist about Imran Khan. Imran Khan is taken as a mediocre. Imran Khan is taken as a liar. Imran Khan is taken as a Bollywood actor. Whatever he said about America, that America wanted to change his regime using Pakistan's ambassador, a grade 22 officer in Washington, D.C., and telling the ambassador to change the government. Does that make any sense? Did this make any sense at all to anyone? No. The question is, besides the point he's a liar, the question is he don't know what he's talking about. And how would that be comprehended by the people? I do not mean the panwala. I do not mean the street hawker. That is a different story. Is he trying to address the street hawker? Is he trying to address the shopkeepers, the small shopkeepers in Pakistan, the poor of Pakistan, the illiterate of Pakistan? If he is addressing those people and trying to bring a popularity base amongst those people by using his false notions and fake stories, that is fine. It is not acceptable in the educated world in the West. People know him very well. He is known by the press in the West as a playboy. He is known in the press by the West as a mediocre. He is never known as someone who is a scholar. He is never known as someone who is a diplomat. He is never known as someone who is a statesman. There is no such story about him. The question is, then people talk of him. He became the chancellor of Bradford University. Yes, that is the celebrity position. To become a chancellor is not an academic position. And then he was removed on the force, on the pressure of the students' union of the Bradford. That should also be known. And the fact exists that he qualified his bachelor's degree from Oxford, from one of the colleges of Oxford, which is called Keble College, and did his BS in third division, which is lesser than 45% of marks attained in cumulative grades. So that is not something that he shows any aptitude, any scholarly aptitude, or academic aptitude, or diplomacy, or statesmanship. No. Yes, he is there who came to the United Nations, and he said that if he were the one to fight the case, he will bring his gun. He shouted like this with designing a gun, and he talked of terrorism. He talked of terrorism repeatedly at international forums. And he said that Taliban should be recognized. He said that if Taliban not recognized, then there will be a new 9/11. He threatened the West. And threatening the West is against the 2002 resolution of the United Nations, 2001 resolution of the United Nations, which is resolution 1473. And the spokesman of the United Nations should know that the resolution 1473 mandates the United States to take action against those who create hatred against the United States, incite people to go against the US interests and target US. What Osama bin Laden did with the US. He did not fire any bullet himself, but he created the hatred. He incited the people. He sent a group to bomb the US interests within the United States. And this is what he was doing. He incited people in Pakistan. He incited people to the point when American flags were burned at Mall Road. He incited people to raise slogans against America. And even in the last meeting in Abbottabad, Sheikh Rashid said, America ka jo yaar hai wo gaddar hai, means those who are friends of America are traitors of Pakistan. That was the slogan right there. Even
Dr.
today.
Let me understand. In Pakistani establishment, there is one thing. Uh, some elements they are with me, and most of them with you. So you don't know who is who. And in the same way, I want to understand what is going on here with the American media and American administration. Do you think the same situation is here in US administration, or these elements they were active, they were deployed by the PTI in both in Republican and in a Democratic Party? So you saw that. So what the Pakistani American group they were funding for Republican, and the majority of them they were with the Democratic Party. So when they find out, so it's a dual policy, and if one is there, then still it's good for us, and the other one is not there, still good for us. So what do you think? There is a divide here in USA, or something else going on in the back door?
See, US policy is very clear. There are a lot of conspiracy theories about US policies in the third world countries, including Pakistan. And those theories are not right. US policies, whether it is the government of the Democrats or it is the government of the Republicans, the US policy do not change. US policies has nothing to do with pressure groups. And if someone thinks that maybe Jemima Khan had some interest in some segment of the society and that segment of the society can influence to get Imran Khan back on track, this is absolutely not right. This is absolutely a conspiracy theory. There is no such thing that Jemima Khan is trying to intervene or trying to create a group within the groups and influence US policies. It's not possible in US policies. US policies are made by the Congress, and the Congress is very clear. Congress has all the information, whatever information is available on the Google, and whatever discussion is going on, the CIA and FBI is fully aware of that. And these are the national security agencies of the United States who know how to protect the United States. This is not going to happen. It is US interest, whatever is being done, and it has got nothing to do with some minions like Imran Khan. Imran Khan is a minion, is nothing to the US interest.
Dr. Saab, let me understand, and I will ask you a straight question. What is the problem uh, between United States of America and the Imran Khan and his party? That he's so upset and he's so sure that the USA was involved in his regime change. And then we saw Pentagon denied, State Department denied, and even the White House denied. Some congressmen, they came on front and they denied as well. But Imran Khan was still stick to his own stance. He's promoting anti-American uh, uh, these conspiracy theory. Do you think is down the road USA will give him an access as he's getting very popular in the region in the world? Is there any is there any uh, is there any way that down the road things will get better in relationship with this specific party, political party, Imran Khan?
In other words, what you're saying, is there any possibility of a rapprochement Imran Khan with the American policymakers? The answer is a no. There's no question of any rapprochement between a political party of a third world country with the US policymakers. That should be very clear. Yes, whatever government that comes into Pakistan will discuss issues at a state level, at a government level, and that will be between government and the government. There is a no relationship between Pakistan's political forces and the United States political forces. There is no such thing. There is no relationship between Democratic Party or Republican Party with Jamaat Islami, with PTI, or with PMLN. No. United States policymakers will talk and will discuss matters of mutual interest with any party that is in power. Whether that has a hate about America, whether they dislike America, does not matter, such as Syrian government is anti-American, but we are dealing with the Syrians. Such as there is Iranian government which is anti-America, we are dealing with them also. There is a government that is not recognized anywhere, like Afghanistan. Yes, there is a dealing going on. So that does not stop. The rules of engagement do not stop with no one. Even the rules of engagement with someone who wants to deal with the United States, yes, US will deal with them as long as US policies are concerned.
Dr. Saab, even he acts as a
Now, let me come to the very basic question that you asked, a very fundamental question. What was the grudge that Imran Khan had that he created a whole scenario against the US and anti-American incitement in Pakistan? What was the motive? What was the goal? Where was he hurt? Why did he have create such a grudge in his talks in the media? What venom was there? That is the question. Yes, I answer to you. He thinks and he thought, and most people in Pakistan, let me make it very clear for your audience, most people in Pakistan should know that the Pakistani leaders say something on the stage and they say something when they are here in the State Department behind the doors. Why is that? They say that yes, we said anti American not because I am anti American. I use those slurs in order to gain popularity amongst the anti American popular vote bank in Pakistan. But I am with you. This goes on behind the doors. And in front of the people, they say, I am anti American, America Murdabad, and all those things. And they hate slurs against the US. And inside doors, behind the curtains, the discussion is something different. This is, we know that, and this is a complaint that I have received from so many lawmakers and people in the administration. They have said to me, why this is the case. I said, in future, what we have to do, we should not listen to those people who double cross their own people. They say something else behind the doors, and they say something else on the stage before the public in public meetings. Imran Khan did the same thing. What he did, what he said behind the doors, what he has had been talking for long behind the doors, he deceived people. This is not acceptable by America. You are talking something else. You are trying to fool us by saying that you are with us, and then you are trying to create a whole atmosphere of burning American flags. And now you think you will be an American, you will be supported by the United States. No, US is not going to support such idiots and stupids.
Dr.
US
Saab, even
US is not a small power. US is a world power. USA don't need anyone like this. They are mediocres. Let them play on their home ground. And these mediocres, if they are acceptable by those people who like mediocres, we have nothing to do with that.
Dr. Saab, even he acts like America's son-in-law, and he said repeatedly on public forum in his public gathering, PTA gathering, that he don't hate USA, and he repeatedly said he want to establish a good relationship, but he is against the policy, the regime change policy. So, do you think he is expecting something else from the father-in-law, and that's why he's very confused about that?
See, the point is, America is on record. The American judiciary is on record. The Los Angeles court is on record issuing an edict, a judgment that he fathered an illegitimate child out of wed. And that is a crime in Pakistan law. That disqualifies the person to hold a public office under Articles 62 and 63 of
Dr. Saab,
Pakistan.
it is too personal. Let's go to the
No,
next.
no, Mr. Farooq Mizar. Let me make this also clear. Anyone holding a public office is subject to public scrutiny. Clinton held a public office. He was subject to scrutiny, not his personal matter.
It's okay for our Supreme Court and justice system.
Schwarzenegger was governor and something appeared. It was subject to public scrutiny. There are a number of cases, including the director CIA, had to face those charges. This is Islam and this is modern law. In both laws, a person holding a public office will be subjected to public scrutiny under 62 and 63 of the Constitution. There is no such thing as personal matter, either in Islam or in modern laws. That should be very clear before people when they argue that this is a personal matter. There is no personal matter when you're holding a public.
Cannot argue with you on this specific point. You are talking about the Islamic way of living. It is
No,
okay.
not modern law. I'm talking about modern law, yes. In modern law, it is subject to.
But as he is very popular, he was treated as a special case, a baby to the justice system, and the courts give him a lot of.
Can I ask you popularity? Today, how many people believe in God and how many people do not believe in God? If you see the popularity base, then certainly Iblis or the Satan will win the elections, not God. God will lose the elections because majority is not with God, majority is with the devil forces. So that does not mean that a majority means that he should be respected by the United States. He should be respected by moral countries upholding moral values. America holds moral values. Why should America bend upon such a minion? There's no reason for America to bend on him. This is absolute. This is absolute of no, no. This is of no value here. And tell me, in American media, where is his name coming up in the media? How many times in the CNN his name comes in the media? There's no such thing. It's not important. He's not important to the US. This should be made very clear before Pakistani people. US is not concerned with minions like him.
But Dr. Saab, he has a very strong base in United States of America. His 7 to 8 uh, uh, his party type with different names and with different spellings. Recently, he
And
was
your own website showed that there are 20 people who came for protest in support of him.
yeah.
Only 20
And,
people across the US.
when they were looking for Lou, Mr. Lou, who is one of his victims, so he has a very strong footing in the United States of America. A lot of networks work for him, likes him, and campaign for him.
Networks are
And,
not indicator
millions
of
of dollars and
networks are not indicator of support. Networks
another
are indicator of
another thing is his
financial support, financial sponsorship. Anyone who can finance and sponsor networks will support him. Not public. No one is concerned.
his own sister, a dear sister. She owns one of the building, 15 minute walk away from me from where I live. So he has a very strong footing in United States of America. So let's talk about the existing government, the ruling party. So the Americans, they are very close to, and they also endorse. And now we heard that IMF loan is about to sanction, and they will receive a decent IMF grant, this loan. And there would be a lot of excitement, and the Pakistan's financial situation would be very better. I want to focus on the recent flood situation in Pakistan. Almost 70 to 8% Pakistan, especially remote areas in Rajanpur, Dadu area, this Tausa Brag is just blown out, and the humanity is so neglected, Dr. Saab. You cannot believe we saw such a bad scenes. The people and their dead bodies, even from the graveyards, the bodies they pop up from the ground 6 feet under. So we saw very sad scenes, and at the same time, we observed that the world this time was very quiet, and they did not uh, make headlines, and they discussed this very issue. Thousands of people they are displayed, their lively, their animals, their property, everything destroyed. What do you think? Why the world is not trusting this civil government, the existing government?
Uh, the last part of the question first. If you look to the time of Imran Khan, Bajwa went to the UAE to recommend funds for Pakistan. Bajwa went to Saudi Arabia to recommend funds for Pakistan. Bajwa accompanied him in his meeting with President Trump. He was not alone. So the chief of the army staff had to go to all international forums to give him support, extend him support. Why? Because it is the Pakistan's armed forces that has established credibility at world forums or world institutions or the states across the globe, and that institution is respected. But the political leadership of Pakistan is not trusted. I cannot tell you as to how many head of the states denied any sort of credibility to accept the integrity of Pakistan's civilian leadership. And that is why civilian leaderships are carrying General Bajwa with them in their entourage or visits to foreign capitals and getting money. Even today, you see the newspapers. Qatar, the Emir of Qatar, met with Pakistan delegation, and that was about whatever something to do with investments and money in Pakistan. And General Bajwa was accompanied right there. So these things are indicator of something that Pakistan's only institution that is trusted across the globe is the Pakistan Army. And if
So you
Pakistan
want to say all these countries they need a warranty from the General Bajwa? or establishment to get into Pakistan for all these helps and supports and grants?
Yes, and one very interesting thing I must tell your audience, which is very important.
My second question,
No,
you
no,
can answer on the floor.
we'll go to the second question. Let me tell you one very important point here. Pakistan, since 1979, the war in Afghanistan, Pakistan is getting military and civilian aid for years. Hundreds of millions, billions of dollars were given to Pakistan by the United States exclusively. It was aid, not loan to Pakistan, including hardware to Pakistan. That was why. What was the reason of giving those aids to Pakistan? This was earned by the Pakistan's armed forces. The credibility was Pakistan's armed forces. These earnings came because of the credibility of the Pakistan's armed forces. Now, the second biggest earner for Pakistan are the overseas Pakistanis, me and yourself, the Pakistani diaspora living in the United States, living in Canada, living in UK, living in Germany, in France, in the Middle East. These are the people who are the bread earners of people back home. Now, this year's foreign exchange remittance to Pakistan by the overseas diaspora or the expatriates of Pakistan was $31 billion. So the major portion, Pakistan's total budget per year budget is 45 to 50 billion dollars. Out of those 45 and 50 billion dollars, 31 billion dollars are earned by the Pakistani diaspora, and the rest is achieved through Pakistan armed forces. Like Pakistan's armed forces is providing security to FIFA, the football games in Qatar. That means Pakistan is going to get $2-3 billion from Qatar because of the army. So it is the army that is earning those money. It is the Pakistani expatriates who are earning the money. So the two major components of Pakistan's economy, who are the backbone of Pakistan's economy, are the Pakistan's armed forces in getting military and civilian aid, and Pakistan's expatriates sending foreign remittance to Pakistan. Now, of those two segments of the society, Pakistan Armed Forces is composed of 700,000 troops, and Pakistan's expatriates are 5 million people living abroad. These are the people who earn for Pakistan, and the rest of the country is hardly making $5 billion export overseas. What is going on? And
Dr.
when
Saab,
no, no,
in that,
hold on. Let me bring you one more point. Now, the entire criticism in Pakistani media, the entire criticism in Pakistan parliament goes on that the Pakistan overseas Pakistanis should not be given this right, should not be given that right, should not be given voting rights, should not be given these privileges, and Pakistan's army is taking all the budget of Pakistan. This is what is going on. Even this national security, even the chief of the staff of Imran Khan, Gul, what is his name? Shazeb Gil. He himself wrote an article in the United States that Pakistan army is depleting the budget of Pakistan, the revenues of Pakistan. He charged Pakistan army on that. Now these people are charging Pakistan army, are charging the overseas Pakistanis, and they are the backbone of Pakistan. Do they want to crush Pakistan by damaging the interest of the overseas Pakistanis and Pakistani
Dr.
and the
Saab,
military?
Dr. Saab,
Pakistani military is playing a pivotal role in
Dr. Saab,
Pakistan.
there is no doubt. Bajwa doctrine was very successful. Americans want military to military relationship only with the Bajwa and his leadership and the neighboring country. So in that way, we we are changing the level of diplomatic relationship. And do you think if army and establishment and his departments, they are doing everything, securing borders, the internal security, cleaning all mess, terror, and everything? So do you think the world is on that frame of mind that the military, Pakistan military, is better than that because they are fighting and fighting as a firewall, and the rest of world is sleeping soundly, and our civil governments they lost their credibility and they don't want to trust them. So if this is the case, do you think it's a very dangerous the way the Pakistan structure And what's about Pakistan military and civil relationship? If the world will respond in that in a different way, so how we will bring a democracy in Pakistan? There would be a dictatorship all the way. So the now we don't have any big problem within the region. America is not in the region. We don't have any war-like situation in the region. And between India and Pakistan, we have a definite engagement, and we have an engagement in border. We have a military enough, weapon enough, but let the political system grow and breathe. I think rest of the world should also give a chance to Pakistan's democracy grow. They give them a chance to make their headway. So, what do you think about that, Dr. Saab? This is a serious situation.
See, the point is, these are the concerns that you're expressing as a Pakistani. And these are the concerns we look to matters with domestic eyes. With international eyes, Pakistan has not been blocked on any move to promote democracy. There is no country in democratic country like US, Germany, France, England, they have not done anything wrong with Pakistan's democracy. It is Pakistan, which is Pakistan's politicians who are damaging Pakistan's democracy themselves. No one asked Pakistan to bring a martial law. No one promoted martial law in Pakistan. And let me also tell you that martial law is not acceptable today by the United States. The government in the US is a democratic government, and the Democratic Party is not going to recognize a government that brings martial law in Pakistan. That must be very clear. America is not encouraging any military adventure in Pakistan. Now, the question is, do they trust civilian leadership? No, that is a different issue. How to trust people and why to trust people. I tell you one thing. I was sitting at a conference in Pentagon, and one of the ladies who is a senior staff member, she said that, look, Dr. Mushtaba, you know what? When we look to the dressings of Pakistani politicians, they bring the best dressings in the world. And when we look to our own policymakers, they behave like an average man. Why that's the difference? It is our money that they are using. It is our money that is being used by them and through corruption, and not they are showing their eyes on our money.
Okay, so let me add more. Let me prove the point what I was talking to you about the democratic strengthening democracy in Pakistan. I believe American and the rest of the world believe in. Uh, General Bajwa, he was invited in British Royal Academy, and that was a very big respect for the Pakistan Army and Pakistan itself. Then we saw he came into the Middle East, and he was given a very big respect and awards. Then he came back to Saudi Arabia, and then commanders they were sitting with him when he came back. So now uh, we heard a lot from different corners and the people they are talking. Is there any? They are paving a way of Bajwa doctrine to exist for another 1 year.
Let me tell you,
Getting
General,
extension,
General Bajwa, General Bajwa
he
will
is getting extension for 1 year.
General Bajwa will get an extension for 2 years.
No, he
On
cannot get 2 year because this is not legal to. But there is a room that he can get and he can stay 1 year.
no,
And if he is getting extension,
there is a room for two
what will
years.
what we will happen? Does this the whole political scenario will change, or if he as this extension is okay with the rest of the world, is it beginning of new Pakistan and US new relationship, or it is a start of some very big game? What's going on, Doctor? You are smiling. Something very that I want to, and our audience they want to hear about that.
You're asking a very smart question, Mr. Mirza. Mirza Saab, I know your question and you know the answer. For your audience, to my understanding, General Bajwa will get an extension. I'm not disputing 2 years or 1 year. To me, it is 2 years. Second thing is that this government has survived. Economic conditions were not good. It has been restored to some extent to survive, but this is not sustainable. Why? Because the crops in Pakistan are lost 90% in flood and rains. That means the next year crop will be 90% less, and Pakistan is an agricultural country, which means that Pakistan will need $30 billion just to buy food stuff to feed the people in Pakistan. This cannot be done by my friends, including my friend Shahbaz Sharif. I don't think so. This team is so smart to handle the situation which is coming up in the next year in 2023. The challenges that's coming up in 2023, number one, crops would not grow to the level where it has had been growing in Pakistan. There will be 90% deficit, food shortages in Pakistan. Second, there is loan repayment in the volume of $35 billion in Pakistan in 2023, and the budget is $50 billion. This makes a total of more than $120 billion that Pakistan requires in 2023. For that, you need a leadership which has to be very strong, bold, and should know the dynamism how to handle such a big threat coming up before Pakistan. I think
Doctor,
the answer is
Doctor
the
Saab,
answer,
I asked you a
let,
very
let me,
important question.
let
Yeah.
me, the answer is Pakistan may need an interim government, and that interim government will have to bring a brutal accountability in Pakistan. Pakistan's looted wealth has to be brought in to survive and sustain Pakistan. As Murad Saeed had said, how many in Urdu? 200 billion Pakistan ka bahar hai. 200 billion of dollars of Pakistan is
So Murad
outside.
Said, Murad Said can do
इमरान
anything.
इमरान
What
खान
is
आएगी और अगले दिन लेकर आएगी. और इमरान
yes.
खान will come to
That's
power
all.
and
That's all. Let me ask you another question. Very simple and straight question. World shouldn't be worried about Pakistan. There, even there is a famine, and we will survive. We are very tough enough. Pakistanis, they are very tough enough. They will eat grass and they will survive. And I think the rest of the world should be worried about. Uh, Pakistan is the most important region in the world, strategically or geographically, and stable Pakistan and stable Afghanistan is in the best interest of the world. That's one thing I want to ask you. We are talking about 1 year extension. Do you think there would be a sweetheart package deal with the extension, and how these the existing political uh, parties' response would be, or if the response would be in a different way. So I want to ask you, what would be the package and how they will deal with this package?
you want me to answer in the language of Sheikh Rashid, or you want me to answer in a very academic form?
Just answer the so that our audience they can understand what we are talking about.
Your audience mostly understands the Sheikh Rashid form. And if that is the case, then let me tell you, for Pakistan to be saved is one, Pakistan has to continue to remain in the American camp. One. Second thing, Pakistan's foreign policy has to be with the allied forces of Pakistan, including Arab states. And that will happen. Number three, General Bajwa will get an extension, and General Bajwa will tow a policy that is helpful to Pakistan, which means that Bajwa's next policy will be supportive of our allies in the Middle East and will be supporting of our allies in
Dr.
Europe.
Saab, I want to hear more from you. I want to hear more from you in terms of the changing political situation in the region, and I want you to answer uh, these the building new blocks and the two wars they are on the way. One is active and is about to be closed, the Ukraine and the Russia, and the second one is about to be started. And after that, the Pakistan's role and Pakistan's involvement and his extension and the American influence in the
Pakistan,
region.
as you said, Pakistan is an important component in geostrategically across the globe. Pakistan's peace in Pakistan, peace in the region is vital to global interest, as you said it.
When
And right,
Pakistan will start making its own decision and building their democracy, and when they will have a confidence that now this is the time, now we are a sovereign country, and we will live like that. Dr.
I,
Saab,
I think we have come to a defining moment of history. We have tried so many things, even by selling Gwadar and selling our sovereignty to China. We have given State Bank of Pakistan by selling sovereignty of Pakistan. That was all done before this government. State Bank of Pakistan was sold on lesser than $1 billion to compromise on the
Dr.
sovereignty.
Saab, thank you very much. Our time is up. Dear friends, audience, listening to us in USA, Canada, and in Pakistan and South Asia. Uh, we talk about United Nations response, speedy response on Imran Khan. His matters in the court. Then American media also responded speedily, but United Nations response on Kashmir issue was very slow, and it took like 70, almost 70, 75 years. Still, the matter is not solved, and the priority changed, law changed. Now the Kashmiris, now they are a part through the constitution. They are part of. They acting like a different status. So I think uh, the UN involvement in Pakistan's local affair is not an international affair, and they notice Imran Khan is just a political party's head, and he is not a prime minister of Pakistan. And we did not see any human rights violation. And if something happened, if there was any complaint, the courts, justice system reacted, and the millions of people, the world is looking all these scenes. The courts, they are making very bold decisions. So I believe uh, the foreign ministry of Pakistan and their United Nations permanent mission and the ambassador of Pakistan, their shameless, their response, and they did not so far give any statement officially. I believe the government of Pakistan, they should think about that, and even establishment think about that. So their first response should be that Pakistan is a sovereign country, and our justice system is very active and responding. And the people who they are spreading these anti Pakistan or anti party campaign, I think this is an act of it's anti Pakistan sentiment. So then we talk about the flood situation in Pakistan. Thousands precious lives lost, and the people, they don't have place to live, even to bury their loved one. It's a very stored. The world should also respond, and they should participate in flood relief efforts. And this is the time, and they should come to Pakistan, and the Middle East and the Europe, and especially America. They should come forward and help these people. And we also talk about the political situation and the relationship between a one specific party, Imran Khan, and the United States of America. So you heard the Dr. Saab give a very straight uh, answers. Dr. Saab, thank you very much. Folks, uh, with the next new topic, and we will come back to you in a couple of days. Pakistan Zindabad.